Steve Golson, ex GCC. How you doing?
Well, now that I'm not muted, I'm doing better.
So, former GCC employee, and
Yes.
GCC, for people that don't know, was Atari behind Atari, right?
That's one way to put it. For a few years there, we were this secret outfit on the East Coast that was doing a tremendous amount of development work for Atari. You know, how that all got started is a fun story. We were all students at MIT, and two of my friends that I lived in the dorm with, Doug McCrae and Kevin Curran, the two of them started up a partnership, the two of them, to put pinball games in our dormitory. And they went in 50-50, and they put in a pinball game, and they bought another one, and they bought another one. And then eventually they branched out and added video games, and then branched into a second dorm and a third dorm. And this was a pretty lucrative thing for them as still students to make some money and learn about the game industry. There were speed up kits back then that were sold to the arcade owners to speed up your asteroids or improve your Galaxians game. And none of this was authorized by the manufacturers, but it was a cheap way to keep your game going and making money for the arcade owner. Kevin and Doug had 3 Missile Command games, and the revenues are strong for a while, and then they drop off as the players get good at the games. They said, well, we need a speed up kit for Missile Command. And they went around and talked to the various people who were doing these little speed up kits, and nobody had Missile Command. Kevin and Doug were like, well, hey, we go to MIT. I bet we could make one. And that was the beginning of General Computer, was Kevin and Doug and a handful of us who were friends. And we started up this company just for fun, basically, to do this enhancement kit for Atari Missile Command. It was called Super Missile Attack, and we brought it out, and it was phenomenally successful. We were like, wow, Kevin and Doug were like, geez, this is great. We'll do this again. Cutting the long story very short, Atari sued us for $15 million. They were not happy with our kit that we had done. And so we went to court with Atari, and I think they thought we were just going to roll over and die, and just like, oh my gosh, we're scared of the biggest consumer electronics company in the world coming after a bunch of MIT dropouts. And we're like, dude, well, this sounds like fun.
I really like how you mentioned, was it like Atari said that you had an unfair competitive advantage over Atari?
That was one of the claims in the lawsuit. What was the exact phrase? But yeah, we were unfairly competing with Atari.
Like, seriously, guys?
And copyright infringement and trademark infringement and all these things that we had thought about when we did our kit, that we would not violate any Atari intellectual property. We built it and designed it very carefully. Eventually, Atari was like, why are we suing these people? This is really dumb. They're smart folks, and they want to design games. Why don't they design games for Atari?
What year was this, Steve?
1981.
1981. Okay.
Yeah, we started, the kit came out in May, June of 81. The lawsuit happened in late July and went through August, September, and beginning of October, we signed the deal with Atari.
At that point, had they had already? So what you said about your story kind of intrigues me, is that they already had bad PR with the folks at Activision, like David Crane and them guys, and they left, and there was some lawsuits and stuff, and Atari at this point was lawsuit happy, and it probably wasn't a good optic. There was a lot of lawsuits going around in video games back then, and a lot of times, even though they would sue, they wouldn't win. So there were quite a number of lawsuits that were quite valid, because people were, wholesale ripping off games and pirating games, making complete clones of Pac-Man and asteroids, and
or selling unauthorized T-shirts. And a lot of that was quite valid from the manufacturer's point of view. And I think they thought we were doing the same things. Oh, it's just more of those ripoff people. But no, we were very careful to not copy any Atari code. We left the credit in the copyright for Atari because most of the code was still Atari code. And it was not at all clear that Atari was going to win the suit. And I think that was the biggest reason they wanted to drop it, because if we had won, that would have set a really bad precedent for them.
When you were officially an Atari employee, what was the first
Oh,
thing?
no, we were never Atari employees. Oh, no.
Were they?
General Computer was a separate company.
They're contractors,
It actually was a partnership between Warner Communications, and General Computer to create another entity, also called General Computer, to create product that would be sent off to Atari.
What was your first project?
Arcade games was the first thing we worked on. We had some early projects. One was called Fireman that we worked on. But really quickly, Food Fight and Quantum, what became those two games, were started very early on. And by this time it's early 82, and those both came out in 83. So it took about a year or so to develop those.
Arcade development, and then 2600 and 5200 as well.
Right, that all started in spring of 82. Initially, we were not going to do. It was all arcade. It was all arcade stuff we were going to do. In early April of 82, Atari is in a bad way. Another chunk of engineers is threatening to leave the company. Pac-Man for 2600 has just come out beginning of April and gets horrid reviews. Right? Atari thinks this is gonna be the big thing for 1982, and it comes out and it's like, why are we getting these bad reviews? Because we're Atari and it's Pac-Man and it should be awesome. Kevin, our president, Kevin Curran, gets a phone call from Manny Gerard, who's the head of Office of the President of Warner Communications. And I think also on this phone call might have been Skip Paul, Atari General Counsel, so here's how Kevin recounts this story. The phone rings at General Computer. I want to talk to Kevin Curran. Well, he's not here right now. Where is he? Well, he's at his accountant's. What's the phone number? I mean, nobody has cell phones. Nobody has anything. So they call Kevin at his accountant's office. It's like, Kevin, what? Can you write VCS carts? What the hell? What's a VCS cart? How big are they? 2K bytes. Some of them are 4K bytes. Kevin's thinking, sure, yeah, we could write those. How long would it take you? I don't know, a few months. Kevin's doing the math. He's thinking, how long did it take us to do the super missile attack kit? And how long would it take us to do, 4K bytes churned out? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, it would take about that long. And while they're on the phone, they negotiate the agreement. Okay, we need you to do 7 cartridges for us by September. I was like, okay, we'll give you $70,000 a cartridge in advance of royalties. Tell us the account number to send the money to. $500,000 got sent that day from Atari. I mean, this is how panicked and crazy they were. They wanted us to start working on this.
I love this story so far.
Kevin calls.
Awesome.
He hangs up from Atari. He calls his banker, the General Computer banker at US Trust. He's like, who handles the General Computer business. He's like, take $1 out of your pocket. Go open a new account for us. Tell me the account number. And he calls Atari and bam, $500,000 hits the account that day. And by September, as promised, we had 7 titles done, high quality, delivered on time. And Atari thought, oh my gosh. Well, Warner thought, okay, this is what's going to save us, is these people in Cambridge are going to start cranking out cartridges for us.
What were the 7 games?
Miss Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even talk about how Miss Pac-Man came around.
Yeah,
Miss Pac-Man, Centipede, Vanguard, Phoenix,
Oh wow.
Combat 2, and Rubik's Cube or Atari Video Cube, whatever it got renamed as. I think that's 7, something like that.
So
Yeah.
so that's
and,
some pretty heavy hitters for Atari at the time.
Oh yeah.
right, because they had, so that was their problem. They had the rights to a lot of these arcade games, and they had nobody to do the port, right, to 2600. And so nobody knew about us, right? It wasn't like we were Atari people. It was this separate little outfit in Cambridge. So,
Did you realize? I guess you didn't realize how underpowered the 2600 is.
oh,
Without a
sure we
problem.
did. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, but that was part of it was just another puzzle to solve,
Okay.
right? You're given this incredibly limited capabilities of this machine, and you have to figure out how to make it do stuff. Another advantage we had, I think, right from the start, we could use more ROM. I think some of the Atari engineers had a difficult time arguing with their management that this needs to be a 4K game. No, 2K. All you get is 2K. Go make the game.
Oh God.
All right. Whereas all we had to do was tell Kevin and Doug, who were engineers. It was like, what do you need to do this game? Well, it's got to be 4K, or it's got to be 8K, right? Or we need to do bank switch, whatever, because the bank switching was just starting to come. But all we had to do was tell Kevin, this is what we need to do. And Kevin and like, yeah, fine, that's what we're going to do. So you're bypassing all these levels of management in Atari that are pushing back on the engineers.
Yeah.
So I think that was another big advantage we had. Why is Ms. Pac-Man for 2600 such a better port than Pac-Man? Well, we had twice as much ROM.
We're all massive Atari 7800 fans. Huge. And obviously GCC is known, at least but with us, for having worked with the 7800. I guess my question is, as basic as it is, how did that all come to be? Did you decide to do a console? Did they approach you?
So late 82, October of 82, this company called VLSI Technology Incorporated, or VTI, came to General Computer to do a little pitch about, hey, we're a new chip company. We've got a new way of doing chip design. It's not magic anymore. Anybody can do chips. We've got this software, and we've got training classes, and we can teach you how to put your system, your idea, onto a single custom chip. Tell us more. Oh, and we've got these 4-week training classes. Oh, really? When does your next training class start? Well, it started today. It was a Monday. It started today. And Kevin Curran turns and he looks at me because he realizes I don't have any projects ongoing at the moment. And Kevin just sort of looks at me, and I'm like, okay. And 4 hours later, I was on a plane to California. And that really impressed the VTI people, who were Silicon Valley folks, right? And they thought that Silicon Valley people moved fast. And here were these Cambridge, East Coast people, and that quite impressed them. So I took this class for 4 weeks, learned their tools, learned a little bit about chip design. And I came back and I said, wow, this is great. We can all do this. And we did an in-house class at General Computer. There were a bunch of training videotapes that they had. And we watched these tapes, and I gave some lectures, and we got our own VAX computer to run the tools. And we're like, wow, we're going to do chip design. This is yet another thing that GCC can do. And we had this great brainstorm in late 1982, December, about we're going to do this graphics home computer with video games emphasized. And we're going to call it Spring. Spring was our code name for it. Dreamed up this entire architecture for how's the graphics going to work. And it's going to have cartridges, and you're going to plug it in, and it's going to be a home computer, but it's also going to play awesome games. And this is the architecture for how the graphics is going to work. And we had this idea for Spring. And it had like 4 or 5 custom chips that it was going to take to do custom sound and graphics and playfield graphics and sprite graphics. So Spring, awesome. And so early 83, we're cranking away. All these hardware guys are like thinking about the chips that we're going to do and sketching out this idea for Spring. Well, and I'm not sure if it came from Atari or came from us, but it was like, yeah, okay, that's going to be wonderful. But you know, what can we do right now, short term, to help out 2600? 2600 sales are slumping, and is there something we can do to kickstart this system? And so we sort of sit down and have this little brainstorm of like, okay, yeah, what can we crank out in a hurry and then get back to doing Spring, which is really what we want to do. Well, okay, we'll take TIA and we'll hack up TIA and we'll add some more players and missiles to TIA, and as soon as you look at that, it's like, no, that's a nightmare. You don't want to take this ancient technology and try and learn enough to modify. No. Because maintaining compatibility, that was the big thing. Whatever we do, it has to be 2600, right? Because 5200 is already out, and already people are whining about, you've brought out this thing and I can't play my old cartridges on it. Compatibility, just put a TIA on the board, and we'll add new stuff, and basically it'll be compatible because we'll just put a TIA. Don't make your new thing backward compatible. Just keep the old thing there. Let's build a line RAM. We'll build a double buffered line RAM. And that's what got us started on what initially was called the 3600 system, and the Maria graphics and sound chip, as initially it had sound as well. So, we'll get this hacked out soon. It'll take us a couple months. It'll be out for Christmas '83, and then we'll get back to doing Spring. So that was sort of the beginning of it. And I honestly don't know. I'd have to ask Kevin or Doug, who would remember. Did this come from the Warner people? Like, hey, can you guys do something about 2600? Or did it just come from us? Because we were already thinking about enhancements to 2600. One of the things we had pitched already was a RAM upgrade for 2600, a super RAM card.
I'm interested in this. So is the TIA on the 7800 board? Did that maintain? Yeah. Okay, that was actually genius. I understood what you were saying, and I was like, that's actually really cool.
Yes.
And so that's interesting. So you took care of that problem, and then you can put
I think
something
he's going
else
to show us something, Vinny. Hold on.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey.
There's
Wow.
7800 for you.
Just,
right?
just
So yeah, and there, let's see. This is Maria.
Hello,
That's
Maria.
Sally
Hi, Maria.
processor, and one of these, I can't remember which is which.
Sally, that's the CPU, right?
This is TIA. Yeah, Sally is a 6502 modified slightly for Atari, and the same one that's in the 400 and 800. And this is the 6532, and this is the TIA.
Cool.
These are RAMs. So there's a TIA in the board. So that was the thing. It's like, we want to be compatible. Don't make your chip compatible. Just put the old chip on the board. Atari engineers could probably not get away with that, because management would immediately push back on them. Oh my God, 2 chips? Oh, that's going to be so expensive. How could we possibly do that? And we were like, this makes the most sense. We're just going to do it this way. Yeah.
It seems like basically GCC stepped up to the plate as Atari was losing its know-how, because they were not able to release any new hardware after 79. They tried to do the 3200, that didn't go anywhere. The 5200 was just the same hardware as the 400, 800. So
400, 800, yeah.
And
I don't know what was going on internal to Atari, if they were, because we were kept very isolated from the Atari people. Kevin and Doug did not want us to be tainted by the Atari engineers, and
that was probably a good call.
Keep us separate for many reasons. So we were zooming ahead on new hardware, and I think again Warner thought that was tremendous. Warner looked at us as a way to create more product for Atari manufacturing, right? Who cares? All right, Atari design might be problem, but boy, the Atari manufacturing people could sure crank out product.
The fact GCC came up with several games and the
Yeah.
next gen console says a lot about the sad state Atari was in back then.
Well,
Yeah.
and to the
Yeah.
credit of GCC, I mean, you guys were it sounds like basically the saviors of Atari at the time, or at least
Well, they stepped up to the plate, yeah.
exactly.
I think so. I mean, if you look at the product that we developed and the cartridges that came out, it certainly kept them afloat for a while there.
Why Maria? Why was the chip named Maria? It seems like Sally, Tia, Maria. Why is it always? I don't know. Maybe that's not relevant.
Well, it came. That was Art Ing was one of our engineers, and he pointed out that there's this coffee rum liqueur called Tia Maria, and so if you have Tia, then well, we'll have Maria. So it is not an acronym, right? TIA stands for Television Interface Adapter, but Maria is just a name. So it really shouldn't be all capitals. It should just be Maria.
Unless you're shouting for the coffee liqueur.
Unless you're shouting.
Maria!
And eventually we were thinking ahead. Eventually, if you do a cost reduced 7800, you would put both chips on one die. You could do a combo chip of Tia Maria. There's some of the output RF logic is the same in both chips. They have to be compatible with the TV, and so you could share that. And in fact,
Oh God,
Yes.
can I put him full screen?
It's a giant wallet.
yeah. But
Schematics.
Tia
Yep.
Maria preliminary schematics.
Oh wow.
So this is the schematics for the combo chip, and this is when May of '84.
Oh wow.
Look at that.
Right.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Right. So because that's right when, and here's the two of them
Wow.
together. Stephanie, I guess that's the code name for TIA. Who knew? Was right. So May of '84, the 7800 gets announced, and Atari's already thinking about, okay, how we're going to cost reduce this. Oh, well, we'll put both these chips together. Right. Maria there's a lot of white space in Maria, as a chip designer would say. It was designed extremely rapidly. There's all kinds of ways you could make it smaller, make it less area, right?
Oh, hold on. Well, I want to
That
get
is
you close.
cool. Look at that.
So this was a poster
Wow.
that Doug McCrae wanted to have made and given to all the developers who worked on the Maria chip. And so, in fact, on the back, see, it's got my name on there because this is my copy of this poster. And so there's the Maria.
And one thing, guys, you may not notice, but actually the big square in the middle, if I'm correct, that's the double line buffer.
This part.
Yeah. Look
This
at
part.
how big this thing is.
Hold on.
There you go.
Yep.
So that's the block diagram. This is from one of my presentations. I put it together, but showing what's where.
Well, I really regret not paying for StreamYard this month.
The duck is like, let me look at that.
I know,
We're
yeah.
close here.
Yeah.
Let me look at that. Yeah.
All right.
So that was, 7800 was, we started work really in beginning of April of '83, and 1st of July of '83, we taped it out, and we had parts back within a couple weeks. So by late July, I mean, it's just unheard of. So it's basically, April, May, June.
Who designed the look? Who designed the look for the 7800? Was it you guys?
The plastic?
The shell.
Yeah.
Oh,
shell.
that came from Atari. They already had that, the plastic and the controls actually. They already had that done for some new 2600 version. Lucky, because it takes an incredible amount of time to develop plastic to do that sort of work. So
Were you?
that all came from them. Everything else came from us.
Did you end up being disappointed with the controllers?
No, not really. Better than 5200 controllers.
Oh yeah.
And you got 2 buttons, which was something that we came up with. I think Dan Schwinn actually came up with having 2 separate buttons because you were trying to recreate the arcade experience.
Yep.
And so you have to make it a joystick. And nobody thought that maybe there's another way to do it.
I never had a problem with the Pro line until I got older. Now that I'm older, my forearms burn when I'm really getting into it. But as a kid, I never minded those.
Well, these things were made for kids. They weren't made for old men. We just grew. The children grew up. That's what happened.
Like in retrospect, is there anything you would do differently design-wise with the 7800?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wish we had not dumped the audio. Right, we had this.
I was going to ask that,
and we had that. Yeah.
Initially, right from the start, Maria was supposed to have audio as well. We had it all designed. We had it sketched out. We had better video, better audio. We did not have time to do the design, to do the sound. And we didn't have area on the chip. If you look at the plot there, it's like, well, where would the sound logic have gone? Part of that was, looking back on it, remember, we're trying to do this for December of 83. We're in April of 83. It's like, we're going to get this out so damn fast. We're going to get it out into the market, get the chip done. And by July, when we got the first version of Maria back and realized that it wasn't, we needed to modify it, and that's what became Maria 2. And it's like, okay, we're not going to make December of 83. And Christmas sales is what drives everything in the industry back then. Okay, it's going to be December 84. Okay, now we've got more time. Looking back on it, it would have been, gee, we should have figured out it was Maria 2 to begin with. We should have figured out we could add audio. And so that's one thing I would change.
I want to clarify something, because I've always heard that they, as a cost reduction, they decided to go. They wanted you guys to design it with the TIA chip, the TIA chip, but you're saying it was a time crunch thing where you were just like, we don't have time to go into designing a new sound, and we didn't have
as far as the TIA always had to be there for compatibility. All right, so that was kind of the fallback of, well, we'll just use the TIA audio, and we already know how to do that. And you actually get a little bit of a benefit because you have more compute time available and you've got bigger ROMs in 7800 cartridges. So all of that allows you to do better job with TIA sound. So there is some improvement there. You look at 7800 Ms. Pac-Man, for example. It's like, that's okay. That's pretty good. But we had a solution and that was going to be the mini sound chip, which was, okay, we're going to design a sound. We don't have time to put it in 7800, to put it in Maria, but we'll design this sound chip that is incredibly inexpensive, so cheap we can put one on every cartridge, right? And that was mini. And so we were working on the mini design, and it actually was done by early 84. By the time 7800 was announced, we had mini chips working in the lab. And we knew that, okay, starting by late 84, early 85, all cartridges would have minis in them. You have the initial build of cartridges, and then there would be the now with improved sound, and you would get that.
How cheap was mini? Are we talking about a chip that was a couple bucks in each cartridge?
It was supposed to be $1.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah, mini was going to be $1.
Was it in line with Pokey audio essentially, or was it improved beyond that?
Better than Pokey.
Better than Pokey.
It was digital synthesis, 3 voices, custom waveforms for each cartridge potentially.
Wow.
I've got the specs for it, and it would be interesting to build a simulation so
similar to the
sound like.
Yeah.
Right. Plus you would still have TIA sound. You would have really interesting sound. and it would be way cheaper than Pokey. So yeah, $1. But you said, what would I have done differently? It's like, geez, I really wished we could have folded that into Maria. I wish we could have gotten Maria to be more efficient with its silicon area. If we could have the line RAM be twice as big by having the cell be half the size, right? That would be one thing. Oh, and from a system perspective, I remember having this discussion about how much RAM. Okay, right. 7800. There are two 2K byte SRAMs on the board. Gives you a 4K total. The 8K RAMs, single chip, had become available. So it's like, okay, which one do we use? Do we use the 2K RAM or do we use the spiffy new 8K RAM? And it was totally driven by price. And price based on December of '83, which is not when it actually came out. So looking back on it, it would have been ditch the two 2K RAMs and have a single 8K RAM. And now you've got twice as much memory. So, you look back on it, you can make little things like that.
Okay.
Right.
But that's the big things. Audio, maybe better line RAM, more memory on the main board.
There is a fabled 1984 test release for the Atari 7800. Do you know anything about the test, the market testing test release for the 7800? Were you involved in the rollout for that at all, or was that done without GCC?
I don't believe it ever happened.
No, really?
I hear these rumors, and I don't believe it ever happened. If it did, it was extremely limited. I think it was. A lot of systems were sent out to reviewers.
Okay.
I mean, there were lots of that, but it's not like it went on sale somewhere.
Right.
I mean, that's a really weird thing to try and do. Why? What are you going to learn from that? Nothing. I don't think that happened. I think it was just lots of them went out to reviewers. Lots of cartridges went out to reviewers, and so maybe they were on show, somebody had one somewhere, but I don't think it ever actually went on sale as let's put this out on test somewhere and see if somebody buys it. It's like,
what were the reviews like?
Oh, they were great.
Mm-hmm.
I got a whole stack of them here, but people were just gobsmacked that, oh my gosh, Atari finally did something right. All right. The quality of the graphics was amazing. Number one. The quality of the games were, and it's backwards compatible. Really? Oh, thank goodness. And so that was an enormous answer to people who complained about 5200. And it looked like, Atari's got their mojo back, right? They've designed this new system. It's got great graphics. Look at all these things. Oh, there's going to be a home computer. Hey, it's got this clever high score cart. It's backwards compatible. It's wow. Okay, this is great. And the gameplay was phenomenal. I mean, that was one thing General Computer was known for, was very precise, very good user interface, user experience gameplay. So the quality of those initial games was really primo. You look at those initial games, Miss Pac-Man and Desert Falcon, Asteroids. And you go, oh my gosh, yeah, this is going to be a winner.
Did you guys do Desert Falcon?
They did.
Yes.
They did all the
that
release
came
games.
From that was an original game idea from General Computer, and so the whole thing was done.
Do you know
most of the others were adaptations, right? Most of the other titles.
Do you know that you're talking to the world champion of Desert Falcon?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, is that right?
I am. You can go to
is that right? Wow.
He slips that into every conversation. Everybody he meets,
that's how I pick up women at the bar.
Right.
Like, who the world champion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I slide in with, it used to be called Nile Flyer before.
There was yet a different name as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, and it's not very family friendly.
Oh man!
Oh well, let's roll with it, baby. I'm X-rated. I'm from Baltimore. He's from Toledo.
This channel is G-rated, but
yes, I'll tell you. I'll tell you afterwards. Yeah. So Nile Flyer and Desert Falcon, but that was another very interesting game, completely developed, totally original game for 7800.
So the crash happened, and then what happened to GCC at that point in Atari's relationship?
So, it took a while for that to settle out because GCC was, hey, we're owed money for this 7800 development. Right? We were expecting this royalty stream to come in and pay us for the development of this. And what the hell happened? And now remember, our deal is with Warner. So you go to Warner and you say, what make us whole? What's going on? And Warner's like, no, that's all Atari. And you go to Atari. So there was a lot of back and forth with the new Atari, Jack Trammell and his folks about what are we going to do? Jack was saying, well, I'll bring out the 7800 for Christmas '84 at $50. Yeah. Like, wait a minute. No, it was supposed to be 150.
Right.
Like, how are we going to, Jack, how are we GCC, how are we going to get any money? He's like, you're not going to get any money. It's like, well, then it's not going to happen. So there was back and forth about, who has the rights to it and who gets paid. And eventually we got a final payoff from new Atari, from Jack, pays us for 7800. Atari has rights to Ms. Pac-Man and future, so that sort of settled everything. And by then, GCC is like, yeah, we're done. We're done with games. Yeah.
So the 7800, Trammell got a hold of it. That pretty much was the end of GCC. He paid out probably
in
nothing.
The games industry, correct?
Right. Yeah. And he paid out probably nothing compared to what you guys should have received, and far too late beyond that. But now, so that was, the 7800 came out. It kind of didn't do very well, unfortunately. We're huge fans, but
you mean when it finally came out?
When it finally came out,
yes. So, which I gotta say was, on the one hand, it was gratifying that it did as well as it did, given that it was 2-year-old technology at that point.
Right.
And you look back and go, what might have been, right? If it had come out on time, if it had come out in '84 with Atari's marketing might behind it. Yep. What might have been. I look back on it and it's like, wow, it could have been a huge thing. And all the product that we already had designed that was going to come out, the high score cartridge, right? We already had the keyboard software.
Hold on. We got full screen.
What?
Look at that. Wow.
Okay. This is a prototype 7800 keyboard.
800 XL keyboard. With the key.
It is. It was just for prototype purposes.
Right.
Just grab a keyboard, and it's got a PIC processor right there that was custom programmed by GCC. But this would plug into the
look at that.
Joystick port.
The controller slot on the 7800. At first, the keyboard idea was it was going to plug into the cartridge slot. It was going to plug in there. And that's how it was going to get into the video and go out that way. But then we had this brainstorm that was like, no. You can just go right through the controller, plug in there, and we cobbled up 2 prototypes in 26 hours and got it all figured out. And so that would have been an amazing product. Products, software written, typing tutor, Atari Lab, programming. It would use all the existing Atari computer peripherals. So it had this very compelling story about here's how here's this amazing system. And it's going to leverage the existing Atari 400, 800 peripherals. And off you go. Look at all this great software we've got for it already.
I have to shoehorn this in here. What would the expansion port have been used for if you guys had been able to follow through with that? Is that where
The idea with the expansion port was a video disc. We were working with the
like CD-ROM?
RCA capacitive video disc player, video disc games, right? Already Dragon's Lair and such like. So the idea was, okay, we're going to have, if you buy the RCA video disc, it would plug into the side of your 7800 and lots of hardware magic that would sync them up. And so now you've got the 7800 graphics and the video disc graphics, and gosh, what kind of games could you do with that?
Right.
So that was the idea with the expansion port. Unfortunately, RCA announced they were canceling that video disc in early '84. So we sort of picked the wrong video disc player, right? But that was the idea behind it. We were actually pretty far along on developing that and getting it to work. Here, I have this one.
Whoa!
Wow.
This is our prototype from, way back when, right?
So I need to give you my address so you can send me these things.
Yeah, right.
I want to check them and make sure they're legitimate.
Yeah, right. Make sure they work, huh?
Yeah.
Oh no, let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, here, let me see what else do I have to show off here. Okay, this is I think this is a RAM. This would have been like for the home computer, right? Plug in and you get extra RAM for your home computer, and wire wrapped prototype on the back there. Here's a 7800 prototype board that us hardware people had if we were going to do some clever hardware hacking. Was it? So it plugs in and it gives you a lot of prototype space to hack up and build stuff if you wanted to. And here's a fun thing. Can you see that?
Cartridge return to oh wow.
Yeah. So when we would ship cartridges out to Atari, they would have this little label on them, with the name of the cartridge.
Yeah.
And it's like, ship it back to us. Well, the stupid Atari people, when they went to CES, they had cartridges with these stickers on them to demo. And so people are walking into the Atari booth going, General Computer, who the heck is that? And it's sort of, we were like this secret outfit in Cambridge, and all of a sudden our cover got blown. So
do you remember any software, games wise, not computer wise, but games wise, that you guys were working on that never got released?
I've got a whole pile of ROMs that I'm in the middle of dumping to look at. But there's a few things that I know, like Choplifter. I have 2600 Choplifter. It's not at all complete, but you can sort of see the chopper fly around. I believe I have, because I was sort of the pack rat again. I just sort of collected things and said, I'm just gonna. So I ended up with a whole boatload of stuff that I don't think anybody else has. The Fractalus, I think I've got the Rescue Fractalus.
Wow.
How complete? How complete?
Exactly. I don't know how complete it is. I'd have to dump it and see. Track and field. I think I have track and field. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out if I'm able to. I have another one of a kind. You ready?
Yes,
ready
sir.
for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is I believe the only one that exists. Can you see what that is?
Oh wow.
Oh, that's the adapter.
Yes.
No kidding.
For 5200?
This is the 7800 adapter for the poor sods who bought a 5200.
Yes.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
It plugs into your 5200 and it plays 7800 games.
And so that's a working unit? Or is that just for
it was working at one point.
At one point.
Right?
Okay.
This was demoed at CES in 1984. This was one of the products coming for Christmas 84. We're canceling the 5200, but we'll sell you one of these and you can play all the new ones.
Right.
So
wow.
So, by the way, Steve, does the name Bob DeCrescenzo ring a bell to you?
I was trying to get there. So
no.
Robert DeCrescenzo. So today, moving forward, the 7800, of course, it came out and whatever happened. Now today, Of course, the 7800 Plus has been released last November. I think it officially came out.
Right.
The 7800 is getting a lot of attention from Atari and from fans as well. And Robert DeCrescenzo is probably one of the most prolific.
He's the most prolific.
The most prolific homebrew developer of the console. So he created Bentley Bear's Crystal Quest, if you're familiar with that. Frenzy and Berserk, just 1,000,001 ports to the 7800. Are you familiar at all with the homebrew scene around the 7800 and the things they've done?
Very little. I know that it exists.
It's massive, and what's exciting about it is it's superseded the 5200, the Jaguar, the Lynx, and probably not the 2600, but there is a lot of energy in the 7800 because they're now, and you should really look into it, Steve, because they're really tapping out what you can do. There's a game called Ricky and Vicky that looks like a Sega Genesis game.
Incredible.
And it's got incredible sound. People have created hokey chips, which is like a cheap pokey chip to improve the sound. Bob's games are incredible. There's people from all over the world. There's a guy in Chile making great games named Vlad Zaninga. Be careful how you say that. But people from all over. And there's a plethora of games that are really... there's a crazy guy named Revan Tully doing a bunch of dragon games. That guy.
People are doing this. People play these in emulation, correct? Or are they actually playing it on vintage hardware?
Vintage hardware, like the newest set of releases have just come out.
Okay. All right, now I'm totally...
All of
these just came out. These are 7800 games. I just got them in the mail. They're for use on your Atari 7800.
There you go.
Beautifully packaged and created, and this is all based. I mean, your guys' work is still being loved and enjoyed.
That just makes me so happy. I tell you,
Steve,
I have hardware. All right,
I have. If you can see right back here, this is a bookshelf. This is all Atari 7800 games that have been released. I have over 200 Atari 7800 games.
Here's one for you.
Wonderful.
Get that off. But they only released 59 originally, if you include the thing they released in Europe, which was a light gun game they did not release in the United States. There's I've got over 200 right back here. So there's over 150.
That's just incredible. I mean, to have to have that level of interest in this old hardware and to have it that's just amazing. So
you created something that everybody realized was underutilized and fell up the steps to its release. And now people in the retro community, because they've always dogged the 7800, but now people are starting to realize with games like Ricky and Vicky and EXO and this Atari trophy.
There you go.
Yeah.
People are now going, because there are things that the 7800 does that's superior to the NES.
Yes.
And people are now graphically are saying, whoa, there's some really there's a lot you can do. And I'm telling you, look up this game called Ricky and Vicky. It looks like a Sega Genesis game. It's unreal. A guy took 4 years off work and hired people to make Ricky and Vicky.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Thank you so much again, Jeremiah, for the $2 super chat. Ask about Skyfox and Nightmare. So Skyfox for the 7800, was that ever a thing, or is that just from...
I don't know that at all. I don't think it was anything we ever developed or worked on. Is it an old Atari title, or is it?
Yeah, for the 7800, it was vaguely promoted. It might have been
vaporware.
A screenshot in the back of the box.
It was nothing that we worked on. I don't recall that title at all. It may have been a Tramiel era title, and then never actually came out.
T-Bone, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. He just wanted to say, for real, I keep turning on my 7800 again and again. It's great. Thanks, Steve, and lots of great comments. Working. Lots of Jolt 7800. Thank you for everything you've done. I mean, the community around the 7800 is appreciative, passionate.
It's a lot of kicking.
Oh yeah, very alive and kicking. All right, go
Yeah.
ahead, Vinny. I'm sorry.
Zoom-
There was
in.
about, I'll tell you the one number, apparently, do you know what the total build of 7800s was?
The total.
How many?
Um,
How many 7800 consoles were built and sold by Atari? Do you know?
100,000.
No, it was more than 100,000. I think the last count was around there.
3.4 million or something.
Yeah, 3.44 million, I think, or something like that.
Damn, I was
Yeah,
wrong.
it may have actually been closer to 5 million.
Oh,
and,
really?
And the reason I know that is because VTI, VLSI technology, made all the Marias.
Okay.
Mm.
And one of the people at Jerry Frankel, who was one of the chip designers at General Computer, an old friend of mine, when he left General Computer, he went to work at VTI. At VLSI Technology, and he worked there for many years. And he told me he talked to somebody there once. He's like, "How many of those did you build? How many Marias did you sell to Atari?" And the number was something like 5 million. So it may be that there were that many.
One quick techie question.
Yes.
Is that so? The display list seems to be kind of unique to the 7800. I've not seen it
Yes.
in another system.
Right.
And
Well, yeah. How come nobody did it? Well, I think you have to start with the idea of a line RAM, of a scan line buffer.
Yep.
Right. If your architecture has a scan line buffer to do graphics, so now you have to say, all right, how do I decide what gets displayed on this scan line? And so the idea of a display list and then an indirect, what we call display list, you kind of end up with some sort of a structure, memory structure like that to control your display. Now that was the difference between the first Maria we did and the Maria 2. Maria 1 just had the display list, and every scan line, the processor had to come in and set up the display list again. And what happened was the processor, you could, as Tom Westberg put it in his paper where he analyzes, he says, you can display a lot of things on the screen, but the processor doesn't have enough time to do it. Because the processor spends all its time waiting for the next scan line to put the new display list together. So that's where we said, we're going to have to add a level of indirection and have a display list so that the screen will display itself completely independent of the processor, right? You set up your memory structure and you say go, and bam, and everything displays with no processor control at all. Display list. Yeah, I would rephrase that as like, how come nobody does a scanline buffer? And the reason is, as soon as memory got cheap enough where you could do a frame buffer and your hardware got fast enough to blit things around on the screen, that's the way you're going to do it. And so this is this short period in time where that was the right answer. Was I don't have enough, I can't spend enough to do a full frame buffer, but I can spend enough to have one scan line.
Man, you've been awesome, dude. I can't believe all the cool stuff and the stories, and we didn't even get to everything we wanted to ask you.
No, we wanted to do a Q&A and everything, but unfortunately, we're getting kind of tight on time right now.
You've been awesome. Thank you so much. We're trying to fill in the cracks of the history of the 7800. You've answered
a lot.
And you've answered a lot of great questions and cleared up a lot of misconceptions that's online.
There you go. There's a lot more. I mean, there's lots more stories about how it what happened and how it got developed. But it was a really, really amazing, fun experience, and just how quickly we were able to get this thing out the door. From zero to done in basically a year.
Right.
We tried to do it in 6 months and it took a year, and okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good from nothing to console plus 14 cartridges plus plans for a home computer and high score cart and new audio and all of that. And You know,
It's incredible.
You've got
It's an
people,
incredible
and there's
accomplishment.
still fruits of your labor being born
Right.
to this day.
being played. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody go home. Everybody, when we all done here, go play games.
Yeah.